Welcome to TrampWorld. True discovery comes when we leave behind expectations and step into the unknown with an open heart and mind, because expectations often act like invisible walls shaping how we see the world before we even arrive. When we travel or even when we meet new people, we usually carry a mental picture of what things should look like, how they should feel, and what kind of stories we will gather. The problem is those pictures are based on assumptions, and assumptions can blind us to what is actually happening right in front of us. When you let go of those expectations, something shifts inside you. Suddenly you are not comparing reality to some imagined version of it. You are present. You are paying attention to details you might have ignored. The smell of fresh bread drifting out of a bakery tucked away in an alley. The sound of laughter between two strangers sharing a cigarette on the curb. The chipped paint on an old wooden door that has witnessed decades of lives moving in and out. These are not the things we plan for or anticipate, yet they become the moments that stay with us. Discovery is not just about finding new places on a map, it is about noticing the layers of life unfolding around us. If we cling too tightly to expectations, we risk walking past the very experiences that could have opened our eyes and touched our hearts. But when we surrender the need for things to look a certain way, we start to see beauty in imperfection, in surprise, and in the unexpected kindness of strangers. That is where true discovery begins, not in the polished surface of what we thought we would see, but in the raw, unfiltered reality of what is actually there waiting for us. The essence of Istanbul is found in ordinary people's lives, and not just in the breathtaking mosques or the shimmering waters of the Bosphorus. It is in the shopkeeper who begins his morning by sweeping the sidewalk in front of his store and offering tea to the neighbor across the street. It is in the fisherman who casts his line from the Galata Bridge, not knowing if the day will bring him fortune or just the peace of watching the water. It is in the mother who walks her children through the narrow alleys to school, their laughter echoing between stone walls older than memory. You begin to notice that the heartbeat of the city is not measured in tourist attractions, but in the rhythm of daily rituals. The call to prayer rising softly in the background as vendors shout out the price of fresh simit bread. The clinking of teacups in crowded cafes where strangers sit shoulder to shoulder sharing stories. The quiet nods exchanged between elders playing backgammon on wooden tables that have seen countless afternoons pass. These ordinary lives hold extraordinary meaning because they carry the soul of Istanbul in every gesture and every smile. They remind us that the true story of a place is not only written in grand palaces or ancient walls, but in the resilience of people who wake up each day to create life in the middle of history. When we walk past these moments too quickly, we miss the poetry of a city that is not trying to impress us, it is simply trying to live. And in that living we find the most authentic version of Istanbul, the one that is written in small acts of kindness, shared meals, laughter, resilience, and the quiet beauty of ordinary people simply being themselves. Feeling lost is part of the adventure, not a failure, because when we lose our sense of direction, we begin to notice things we never planned to see. Getting lost forces us to slow down, to pay attention to small details, and to lean on the kindness of strangers. It strips away the illusion that we are always in control and invites us into a space where discovery happens naturally. In those moments when the map no longer makes sense or the streets twist in ways we did not expect, we are reminded that exploration is not about following a perfect plan, it is about being open to surprise. There is a unique freedom in losing your way, because you are no longer racing toward a destination, you are simply present where you are. A wrong turn can lead to a quiet courtyard where children are playing soccer, or to a tiny cafe where the owner insists you share a cup of tea. You may stumble upon street art painted on a forgotten wall, or hear a piece of music drifting from a window that stays with you long after the trip ends. None of these experiences were on the itinerary, yet they become the most memorable parts of the journey. When we think of being lost, we often imagine failure, but in travel and in life it can be a gift. It teaches us resilience, patience, and curiosity. It shows us that beauty often hides in the unplanned moments. To be lost is to surrender control, and in that surrender we find stories that maps could never lead us to. Feeling lost then is not something to be afraid of, but something to embrace, because it is often the first step toward true adventure. Real beauty lies outside the tourist map, because what is carefully printed on brochures and highlighted in bold colors on guidebooks often shows only the polished surface of a city. These places are remarkable and worth seeing, but they are designed for the gaze of visitors, not for the rhythm of everyday life. The true spirit of a place hides in the streets that don't have signs in English, in the alleys where laundry hangs between windows, in the quiet corners where children chase each other and neighbors share stories on doorsteps. When you step away from the official map, you begin to witness life as it is lived, not as it is packaged. You find a small bakery where the bread is warm and the owner knows every customer by name. You discover a forgotten park where old men sit in silence watching the world move while sipping tea that never seems to grow cold. You stumble into workshops where craftspeople carve wood or hammer metal in the same way their grandparents once did, with no audience to applaud them. These are the places that carry the heartbeat of a city, and they are rarely marked with stars on a map. There is a rawness and honesty in what lies beyond the tourist trail. It is where beauty is not staged but simply exists without asking for approval. You begin to realize that the most unforgettable memories do not come from standing in long lines for famous landmarks, but from conversations with strangers who invite you into their world for just a moment. The untold stories, the quiet rituals, and the overlooked corners are what transform travel from sightseeing into true connection. That is why real beauty lies outside the tourist map, because it waits patiently for the traveler willing to wander without certainty and to see not just with their eyes but with their heart. Wonder is found in being fully present, not in polished moments, because life rarely looks like the perfect pictures we scroll through on screens. The most powerful experiences happen when we are not rehearsing or trying to capture the scene for later, but when we allow ourselves to feel everything exactly as it is. To be fully present means listening to the sound of footsteps echoing through a cobblestone alley, noticing the smell of spices drifting from a market stall, watching the play of sunlight across ancient walls. These things may never look flawless, yet they carry a depth that perfection cannot offer. When we chase polished moments, we are often chasing control. We want the sunset to be brilliant and the meal to taste exactly like the reviews promised. But in doing so, we risk overlooking the quiet magic of the ordinary. The chipped cup of tea served by a stranger can mean more than a five-star restaurant because it carries warmth and connection. The rain that interrupts a sightseeing plan can become the memory of running through narrow streets laughing with strangers huddled under the same awning. Presence allows us to experience wonder even in imperfection. It teaches us that beauty is not about arranging our lives to look flawless, but about being awake to what is happening right now. The creak of an old tram, the uneven rhythm of street musicians, the mix of chaos and calm in a crowded square, these are not polished moments, but they are alive. When we stop trying to edit reality into something perfect, we open ourselves to wonder in its truest form. It is not about what we can frame in a photograph, it is about what we allow ourselves to feel when we are brave enough to be fully here in this moment. Every corner carries history, resilience, and culture, because cities like Istanbul are not built in a single moment, they are layered over centuries, with each generation leaving something. Travel is not just about seeing a place, but about how the place changes us, because the landscapes and monuments we visit are only half the story. The other half is written inside us, in the way our perspectives shift, our patience grows, and our understanding of the world expands. We may arrive in a city expecting to collect memories like souvenirs, but what we really carry home is something deeper: the way a place makes us question what we thought we knew, and the way it softens or strengthens parts of ourselves we had not fully met before. When we walk unfamiliar streets, we are reminded that our way of living is only one among countless others. A conversation with a local who shares their struggles and joys can teach us more about resilience than any textbook. A meal eaten at a stranger's table can awaken gratitude for connection that transcends language. The act of getting lost, learning new customs, and stepping into traditions that are not our own slowly shapes us into more humble and empathetic people. Travel leaves marks on us that are invisible to others but unforgettable to us. It changes how we notice details back home, the way we pause to appreciate a small kindness, or the way we no longer take for granted the freedoms we enjoy. A city does not just exist for us to see, it has the power to mirror back who we are and who we could become. This is why travel is never only about crossing borders, it is about crossing the boundaries within ourselves. A place can challenge us, comfort us, inspire us, or even unsettle us, but in every case it leaves us different from who we were when we first arrived. And so when we explore the hidden streets of Istanbul, we begin to understand that travel is never only about monuments and photographs, it is about curiosity, presence, and the courage to step into the unknown. It is about listening to the heartbeat of a city in the laughter of children and the rhythm of footsteps on cobblestones. It is about embracing moments of being lost and finding ourselves in the stories of strangers. It is about realizing that real beauty lives far beyond the polished picture, and that wonder rises when we are awake to the ordinary. Every corner becomes a teacher, every encounter a reminder of resilience and culture, and every journey an invitation to grow. The places we visit are not simply destinations on a map, they are mirrors that change us, and if we allow them, they will make us more open, more compassionate, and more alive than when we first set out.